Good morning. My name is Justin Evans alongside of my co-host Michael DeFrancisco, and welcome back to Bears Talk today, where we are focusing on the bye week. Bears didn't play last week, but hey, we have a lot of great things to talk about, a lot of great things to go over for this first half of the season. So let's get right into it. Mike, what do you think the best part of the season is so far, at least in your
Well, I thought one of the best parts of the season was watching football yesterday without being stressed. Watching the Bears. No, I'm just kidding. I think the best part of the season has been the winning record so far. I know that this is maybe the easier part of our schedule. The Bears kind of had a soft opening to the year. But to be 4-2 going into the bye week, double the amount of wins as losses, which felt like, that was never going to happen after we lost 2 in a row to Houston and Indy. You have to take the wins when they come. Yes. You can't take those for granted, especially, and we'll talk about this more later, especially in the division that we're in, especially, with how good those teams look.
Yeah.
I think the best part has to be the fact that the Bears have won 4 of their first 6 games. That is absolutely a positive. I've seen noticeable improvement from many areas on the team, especially the offensive line, the play calling, Caleb Williams. So I think just the fact that we have been a good team so far this year, I think has been my favorite point of the season.
No, I mean that too, right? I think obviously when you are a sort of a rebuilding or kind of a new young team, it takes a lot to get the pieces to gel together and for everything to work perfectly. And for the first couple of weeks, everything has worked pretty much great so far.
Yeah, yes.
And I think that's a pleasant surprise. I mean, obviously the best part for me is Caleb Williams. I mean, without him, I don't even think we'd be, the record that we have right now.
Yeah, he's been
at
awesome.
4-2. So, I just think seeing that we can be good is it's really like a refreshing moment. To be a Bears fan is to kind of see like, hey, we can actually be good.
Yeah.
So
yeah. How about also just quick side tangent? Another great point of the year so far was last night, seeing Justin Fields benched and Russell Wilson came in.
Yeah.
I think it proves the Bears fans even more that they made the right decision.
They did.
And there's no disrespect to Justin Fields, but I don't think Caleb would get benched on Sunday Night Football. And Aaron Rodgers lost. And Aaron Rodgers lost. And as Bears fans, till the day he stops playing football, we will always love it when Aaron Rodgers loses, especially on prime time. But no, we both mentioned Caleb Williams. I think so far, through 6 weeks of his career, if you had to give Caleb Williams a grade, and hopefully he doesn't get the same GPA that I got when I was in school, but if you had to give Caleb Williams a grade, what would you give him, Justin?
I give him a B+. I think overall he's done phenomenal. I mean, to be able to break the records that he's kind of already started in his first couple of games is phenomenal. I think every single week he improves, he gains confidence, and I think because of that, it pretty much allows the team to be better. Because when you quarterback plays good, your team plays even better. Yeah. I mean, he is black, so
Oh, brother.
Cannot get my words up today, I swear.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I give him a B+. Mike?
Yes. I'll also give him a B+. Like you said, started off the year, had a couple rough games, didn't look great against Tennessee, looked severely overwhelmed against the Texans. But ever since that kind of low point of the year, week 2, you've seen that exponential improvement each week.
Yeah.
Now, I can't give him an A because an A would mean that he's been great every single week and that he's kind of good in all aspects. I think a B+ is fair because you're seeing the signs, you're seeing gradual improvement. What he has done so far, he's been able to read the defense. He's been able to distribute the ball. He's, it's felt like, I've said this before, it's felt like everything has kind of slowed down for him. He's processing the game much better. I'd still like to see him hit those deep shots a little bit more frequently because that was a strength of his at USC. We haven't necessarily seen that yet, especially when you got guys like DJ Moore who are going to be open down the field. I think you got to hit some of those deep shots. That will come. I'm not stressed out about that. I think B+ is the correct grade because I'm very happy with what I've seen from Caleb Williams through 6 weeks.
No, and I agree with you, and I think offensively we're doing well. But let's talk about our defense. I mean, how do you feel like they have performed, in these past couple of weeks up to the bye week?
Well, our defense, I think, is Super Bowl caliber. I mean, I truly believe that is a correct statement, right? You look at the defense just from inside out. Defensive line, they've got studs. Montez Sweat has been a game wrecker. Dexter has been a beast out the middle. Even guys like, more rotational guys like Darrell Taylor have made plays. DeMarcus Walker's been good against the run. You look at the linebacking core. Edwards and Edmonds have been great. Sanborn has been making plays. In the defensive backfield, Jalen Johnson's been one of the best corners in the NFL, much like he was last year. Kyler Gord, Tyreek Stevenson, Jaquan Brisker has had a bunch of big games. So I think the key for them is just to get healthy. Not so much. I don't necessarily worry about them as a unit. Just in terms of their health, I just want to see them get healthier, get back out there, playing at 100%. I know they got a little banged up last week going into London. That's why I think the bye week is good. I don't normally like an early bye week because I think, down the stretch you have to play so many games, and especially with the Bears, like we'll talk about later, they have to play so many good teams, so many physical teams down the stretch. But I do think that, bye week, whenever it is, it allows your team to kind of reset itself a little bit, get back on track, get healthy. I think the Bears did need that. They were a little banged up, so I think outside of health, I think this defense has done everything that I've wanted it to. They've held every opponent to under, 21 points? So in the modern NFL, that is a huge, huge deal. If you're holding your team, if you're holding every team to under 3 touchdowns, the offense just needs to show up and do their job. They don't need to be exceptional. So I've been very happy with our defense. And again, I know I've been critical of Eberflus in the past, but he knows defense. He knows how to run a defense. He's got the boys going. He's got them flying around, moving in the right spots. And so I have to give him credit. The defense does look really, really good so far.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. I think the defense is phenomenal this year. It kind of reminds me of it's kind of a controversial one. Do you feel like the defense is better than the 2018 Bears defense? Because I don't know. I don't know. Like
that defense, I don't know, man. Because here's the thing. It's like you have a lot of the same pieces, right?
Yeah.
Dominant edge, Montez Sweat, Khalil Mack. I think Khalil Mack probably got Montez Sweat beat there.
Yeah. I
think in the defensive backfield, the Bears this year are deeper than they were in 2018.
Yes. Yeah.
But at linebacker, I mean, that 2018 team they had Roquan Smith. They were loaded. So, Keem Hicks also at D-line. So, thinking back to the 2018 team, I mean, part of the reason they go down in infamy is because of the way they played down the stretch.
Yeah.
Remember that game against the Rams? They shut them down. So I think we'll see how this defense plays down the stretch against the really, really good teams. But I see the comparison. You're not totally out of your mind. I do think that there are some apples to apples comparisons to that 2018 team. And listen, that 2018 team had Trubisky. Now we've got Caleb Williams.
Could you imagine if they had Caleb?
If they had Caleb in 2018,
Super Bowl.
Honest to God, we probably would have won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Honest to God.
100%.
Because Trubisky was not really pulling his weight necessarily.
Buns.
Buns. Excellent analysis, Justin.
Yeah, one word, no adjective, buns.
Yeah. But okay, last kind of topic of discussion in terms of recapping the year. What are some of the wild cards you think going forward in the year? Players that will determine how successful, players, I guess, or coaches that will determine how successful the Bears can be down the stretch. These are maybe players that have maybe not like your Caleb Williams or your Montez Sweats. Who are some, I think, though, the wild cards going forward later on in the year?
I think at least for offense, I think of Keenan Allen, right?
Yeah.
We know that DJ Moore will be the wide receiver number 1, and we know that he'll get a lot of looks. I'll throw Roman there too. Let's see what our other receivers can do, right? Because we know that a lot of times we may see double coverage on DJ Moore on a play. And I think definitely, like, what was it? The London game, Keenan Allen had his breakout game.
Yeah,
I think,
2 touchdowns.
I think that was his best game so far in the few games
Absolutely.
that he's played this season. So overall, I think that he's kind of the wild card in this situation, at least for offense. And for defense, I'm not really going to point out like a star. I'm going to point out our coaching on that, right? Our defensive coordinator. Like we need to see if he can get his guys to maintain that same type of energy, right? Especially when you're going off of a bye week, it gets kind of slow, and we're not facing a trash opponent. Like the Commanders are pretty good.
They've got dudes.
They got dudes, right? So everyone on social media is saying this will be like, this Commanders versus Bears will feed generations, and all that stuff. But I think this will be our first true test to, really since the Texans game, to say like, hey, we're up against the elite quarterback and a good offense. Let's see what we can do. So, my wild card is the defense for sure.
Yeah, no, I have a wild card here that I'd like to talk about. I think it's Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
I think Cole Kmet's a guy who kind of
week.
flies under the radar a little bit. Not necessarily because he's not a big name. I think most people know who he is.
Yeah.
But like when you're talking about DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, he might get lost in that a little bit. But I think the offense works better when Cole Kmet is involved. When he is a part of the game plan, when he's a part of the passing game, they just seem like the whole offense functions better.
It does.
Let me tell you something. I just pulled up Cole Kmet's game logs this year. First 2 games of the year, he had 31 receiving yards total.
Wow.
First 2 games. Since then, he's had 97, 34, 57, and 70, and he scored 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
So Cole Kmet being a part of this passing game, I think is so big for the Bears. So big for Caleb to have another option.
Yeah.
You know, quarterbacks, they look for their tight ends on those third downs, on gotta-have-it situations. Cole Kmet, I think, is an excellent player. And again, with all the attention that all the other guys get, it allows Cole Kmet to get ideal matchups. He's been winning those matchups, and he's been helping this Bears offense go to different levels. Not to mention, Special Teams Player of the Week. We give it up to Cole Kmet, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Long snapper.
Long snapper. Not the best long snaps I've ever seen, but I think he's the only Special Teams Player of the Week to score 2 touchdowns. So good for him. But I think on defense, I think a guy that not a lot of Bears fans bring up as one of our premier players, but I think he's going to be important down the stretch. Kevin Byard.
Yeah.
Kevin Byard, he's a veteran safety. You know, he's been around the block. He's been there, done that, right?
Yeah.
I think that Kevin Byard is a guy who is going to help this young Bears secondary grow throughout the year. You know, he's not our best player. He's not the best version of what he was. You know, when he was in Tennessee 4 or 5 years ago, that's when he was at his best. But Kevin Byard, I think his leadership and his veteran mentality are going to help this Bears secondary, this young Bears secondary, to reach their full potential. And then the defense in general, right? I think that he can kind of just rally the troops, get them all together, get them on the right page. I think it's so underrated to have good veteran leadership like that in the locker room. And so I'm really excited to see what this Bears defense can do with Kevin Byard helping to lead the charge. So that is kind of our recap of the year so far.
But,
I think.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I had one more that wasn't on there. So how about, like, obviously in London we saw the touchdown celebrations. Like, is there any, like, favorite, like, touchdown or, like, you know, celebration that the Bears have had so far?
Favorite touchdown. I think my favorite touchdown, maybe I'm biased, maybe it's because I was there. My favorite touchdown of the year so far was Tyreek Stevenson's pick 6, week 1 against Tennessee. And part of the reason I love it is because dude started, like, jog walking at the 20-yard line. Like, he was kind of, he scored. He's just kind of, you know, doing a little of that. And maybe it's because he did it, like, 35 yards in front of me. Maybe it was because it was the first game, and maybe it was because, you know, the defense completely won us that game. And that was, like, the play that won us that game. I think that was my favorite touchdown of the year, seeing him just kind of waltz into the end zone like that. That was pretty sweet.
No, I mean, I agree. That was a pretty sick touchdown, but my touchdown isn't one that's actually celebrated on the field. Alex, roll the clip. Yeah, touchdown! Hey. This morning. This morning before you walked in, I made sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. Touchdown, Bears. Yeah, So I had to. So if to give you guys context, I had a wedding that I did videography for this weekend, and ironically, Mike's girlfriend, his mom was one of the bridesmaids. God. I told him during the wedding that if I catch you dancing, it's over. And he's like, "Oh, delete the footage." Why would I delete the footage and we're on the show? If there's more times to embarrass you, I will. You know, so I had to.
Because last week wasn't enough.
Yeah, right? No.
Jeez, dude.
Thank you, Alex. You're so great.
Alex, you're fired, dude. You're fired. I can't believe you would do that to me. Stab me in the back like that.
So you had some great dance moves.
Because I was like, it's not on the script. I don't see the touchdown celebration.
It wasn't on mine either, but I wrote it on Alex's. So.
All right. I'll remember that. I'll remember that.
Yeah. He's gonna get me like doing something stupid, so it's okay.
Yeah. Let me. Yeah. You're done.
Search the dark web.
Right. So now can we move on to the schedule? Yeah. No, you don't have any more videos of me? Okay.
No videos.
Okay, good. All right. Talking about our season recap and apparently wedding recap. Let's jump into the schedule. Now, I'm going to leave Washington out for now because we'll talk about them in more depth later.
Yep.
So next week we play the Commanders in Washington. Following week We are at the Arizona Cardinals. We're going against Kyler Murray and this Cardinals team. They're 2-4, not very good. I think that should be a game that the Bears definitely win.
Yeah.
That is they're not a doormat necessarily like the Panthers or the Jaguars have been, but that's a game that you expect the Bears to win.
Yeah.
There will be no weather implications. They play in a dome.
Right.
You're playing against a very weak Arizona defense. Kyler Murray, in this offense, they're talented, but they haven't been one of the best units in the NFL. Cardinals, I think that should be probably a win. Right?
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think my biggest only concern is we have to keep Kyler Murray contained. Right?
Yes.
We can't have him scrambling and getting 5-10 yard gains because I think that will kill us. And I know sometimes when it comes to our rush defense, we're okay. I mean, a lot of times we're great, but especially against great teams or great players, it's a challenge for any defense, right?
I can't believe you did that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on now.
I'm just caught. It just clicked in. I'm so sorry.
Hey. Oh, I had to. It's all love, but I had to. Yeah. So that's just my biggest thing is, making sure that we contain Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
And then if we do that, I think we're all set.
Yeah. So let's say that's a win.
Yeah, that's a win.
I think we both are in agreement.
Yeah, Jameis Winston W.
Yeah. Week after that, we're playing at home against New England. If we don't get a win there, we got some real issues.
Yeah, we like Drake May beat us. Yikes.
Yeah. Two out of our next 3 weeks are against the second and third overall picks in the draft, and Kyler Murray in between there is the first. So we've got a little symmetry going on here.
Yeah, we do.
But going against New England, I think it's pretty easy to say they're like one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
Talent-wise, they're probably the worst team in the NFL. They just don't have a lot of dudes. I think Gerard Mayo hasn't proven himself as a head coach, I think is a nice way to say that. At home, there is no excuse, absolute no excuse. This is a game you need to win, and you need to take care of business.
Yeah.
This is a lot like the Panthers game was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it should be.
You're getting a terrible opponent at home. Take care of business. They did that against the Panthers. They did that in London against the Jaguars. They needed point blank period. They need to beat up on New England.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm right there with you. This should be an easy one. Not much more to say after that.
Really there's other games worth talking about.
Yeah,
we don't
there
have
really
to take
is.
up time with New England.
All right.
Speaking of games to talk about, Justin, week after New England, another game at home. This time, we welcome the Packers. And Green Bay has looked really good so far this year. Despite Jordan Love missing a few games, they're 5-2. Yeah. They just won a nail-biter against the Houston Texans yesterday off a last-second field goal. Jordan Love is truthfully like Brett Favre, where he will make some of the most spectacular throws you've ever seen, but also throw some of the most mind-boggling interceptions that you've ever seen. He is truthfully like Brett Favre reincarnated in a Packers uniform. How do we break the curse and finally beat Green Bay? What do we need to do?
Our defense needs to be even better, which is hard, right? Because we have talked so many times on the show, hey, our defense is Super Bowl, caliber. But what makes teams great and what makes defenses great is being able to contain your quarterback, right? And I definitely think, Jordan Love should be like on like you know how they have in football practice, they have the little dummies that they tackle. Put his face and his jersey on a little dummy.
He's public enemy number one in Chicago.
He really is.
Yeah.
And I think definitely with us being at home, it'll definitely give us a little bit more of an advantage when it comes to just emotion and kind of like momentum of the game. But I mean, overall, I think that's kind of our big focus, right? Yeah. Can we contain Jordan Love? Can we be able to, whether if it's zone or man, like can we be able to contain him using certain schemes and defenses? Yeah. And I think once you do that, you really, you slow down the Packers.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the Packers, and I feel like I've said this for kind of my whole life, the Packers receivers aren't necessarily superstars, but they're all good players. Like Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, they're all just good players, and they can make plays. So you have to be very careful about that. You have to, make sure you have good coverage alignment. They have good tight ends, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. Josh Jacobs has had a good season so far. And, of course, Matt LaFleur is an excellent head coach. And that is, I think, very dangerous. Yeah. When you have all of those talented players, a quarterback that can make any throw, and you have a good head coach as well. So, key for the Bears in that game, You got to get Jordan Love to turn the ball over. Like I said, he's been turnover happy so far this year. You got to get him to turn the ball over, and then you need to score points off of those turnovers. So you have to win the turnover margin, and then you have to get points off of those turnovers.
You sure do.
You have to take advantage of those extra possessions. I will mention this before we continue on with the rest of the schedule. I consider Week 11 to be the start of the gauntlet.
Yes.
Because here's what you have. You have division game, road division game, road game against San Francisco, road division game, Seattle, then at Green Bay.
Crazy.
Like, that is a brutal stretch. Honest to God, Week 11 on, we might play all playoff teams.
Yeah.
For the whole, last third of the year. So the Bears are going to really, really need to be on their A game.
Yeah.
So we're saying they beat the Cardinals. We're saying they beat New England. We haven't talked about Commanders yet. Don't worry, we'll get there. Do you think we beat Green Bay at home?
I think we do. Just because we're
optimistic?
at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that home field advantage will have a huge impact.
Soldier Field will be rocking.
It will be rocking. And
yeah,
especially,
absolutely.
I feel like with our fans, if we're winning, we're going to support and give as much energy as we can. So I definitely think that'll be a huge factor for sure.
Yeah. Then we go in Week 12, also at home. It is nice to have three straight home games.
Yeah.
Then we play at home against the Minnesota Vikings, who up until yesterday were undefeated. They lost on a last-second field goal from Detroit, who is now number one in the division.
Crazy.
Like, Minnesota was undefeated for the first 6 weeks of the year, and then they lost one game, and now they're second in the division, which is nuts. But Minnesota, this is going to be, I think, a real test for Caleb Williams because Brian Flores has given every quarterback he's faced so far this year fits, except for Jared Goff for the majority of the game yesterday. But Jared Goff didn't start off hot either. C.J. Stroud, Brock Purdy, those guys struggled mightily against Brian Flores. Brian Flores is one of those guys. He's one of those coaches that just they blitz everybody in the kitchen sink. You've got DBs coming in off the edge. You've got defensive tackles and edge rushers stunning. You've got linebackers blitzing and the D tackle drops in coverage. His scheme is so complex. It wreaks havoc on opposing quarterbacks.
Right.
So I think if you're Caleb Williams, this is going to test his ability to read and diagnose defenses, to be able to get the ball out quickly and accurately, and to know kind of how to beat certain blitzes that Brian Flores is gonna throw at you, because Brian Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. Additionally, on the offensive side of the ball, Minnesota's been good as well. Sam Darnold has looked really good. Even though he lost yesterday, I thought he played a good game.
He did.
Ever heard of a guy by the name of Justin Jefferson?
Oh, yeah.
He's pretty good, right? Jalen Johnson will have his work cut out for him this week.
Yes.
Against Minnesota, Week 12 at home, I don't know about this one, Justin. I think this is a little too much. I think, maybe the first time you play Brian Flores, I think this defense will kind of and not sneak up on you necessarily because you know how good they are, but it's hard to diagnose it right away. You can only do so much watching film. I think they need to see it in action. Caleb needs to feel it out. I don't think they beat Minnesota in Week 12.
Ah, wow. Okay. No, I mean, I can definitely see your point. And if I had to hand the loss between Green Bay and Minnesota, I'd rather hand a loss to Green Bay. The only reason why, because I feel like with Minnesota, they are a beatable team. We just saw Detroit come in there and beat them. I mean, barely, but beat them.
And the Jets almost beat them last week.
Jets almost beat them.
Yeah.
Detroit doesn't have Aiden Hutchinson, right? So, I mean, they are a beatable team, but you have to get ahead of them, right? Kind of like what we talked about in Green Bay. We have to be able, if they make turnovers, we have to be able to score off those turnovers. We have to be able to capitalize. And I think once you start to do that, you can be able to slow them down. I'm not really too worried about Sam Darnold more than Justin Jefferson if I just had to solely focus on one person. Hopefully we can turn Sam Darnold back into Jets Sam Darnold. Yes, please. That would be phenomenal. But I just think overall, when you are playing a team that has their first loss after running kind of a hot streak a little bit, I think it kind of slows them down. So hopefully they'll be a little bit, they'll as NFL fans call it, they'll fall back to earth. Fall back to reality. And I think that one we can win. Okay. I think that one we can win more than we can win at Green Bay for sure. Okay. Green Bay will be I say the Green Bay one as an optimistic win. Yeah. But Minnesota, I feel confident.
Yeah. Then Week 13, another toughie. Got to go play at Detroit. Now I will say a couple of things about this really quick before I jump into the game. Number one, it is nice to play in a dome. Yeah. That is nice for this offense. Number two, the Bears defense in recent years, has done a pretty good job against the Lions offense.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Goff has not been what he's been earlier, because Jared Goff right now is playing like an MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, he's thrown more touchdowns than incompletions. It's quite
crazy.
crazy. This offense is humming. Montgomery and Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles, by the way, that's
tough.
That's tough. I can't even lie. That's super tough.
Mm-hmm.
Amon-Ra St. Brown has been great. Obviously, like we said, they're a little weaker defensively because of the injury to Aiden Hutchinson. But I don't know, Justin. Like this offense, to me, this Detroit offense is so loaded.
Yeah.
And defensively, despite the loss of Hutchinson, Brian Branch has been playing great.
Yeah.
This to me, like this Detroit, in my opinion, right now, as we stand on October 21st, Detroit's the best team in the NFC.
Yeah.
Which is a sentence I would never thought I would say in my life.
Yeah.
But
right?
Detroit is, I think, the best team in the NFC right now. I would probably pick them and the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl as we stand. I hate to be Debbie Downer, and I hate to give them another loss, but you think we can beat Detroit in Detroit?
No.
Yeah,
no. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I think it's just extremely tough. And, I mean, I think that was kind of the question for most fans coming in is, can Detroit be – will they have a – they didn't really – obviously they didn't reach the Super Bowl, but they almost made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're a few plays away.
They're a few plays away, right? So will they have the playoff hangover? I won't call it Super Bowl hangover, but will they have the hangover of, hey, we won before, so we're just going to take it easy?
Nope.
And it seems like the first 6 games they've been doing nothing but that, the opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think overall it's going to be a harder one to win. There's a lot of weapons on both sides of the ball for Detroit, and I think you're right. Right now they are, looking from now until the end of the season, they are the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I think so.
So
Yep.
yeah, I don't think we win this one.
Yeah, no. A game this is interesting. Week 14, we play at San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a game at the beginning of the year, before the season started, where I thought,
Yeah, right.
This is end of the year in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be where you're, the playoff bracket is starting to get formed. I thought, this is a huge, huge loss for the Bears. Like, this is going to be catastrophic. And I'm watching San Francisco play this year. They've lost 4 of their first 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Ayuk is likely gone for the year.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey hasn't played a snap.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Purdy has looked pedestrian. Kyle Shanahan hasn't coached particularly well this year.
Right, yeah.
I think as the season goes on, I'm feeling more and more confident that the Bears can compete with this San Francisco team. Now, like I said, will McCaffrey be back in Week 14? I would imagine so, right?
I think Samuel will be back too. He was out for this Sunday's game for a illness.
Yeah,
I think he'll be back for sure.
Yeah, okay, bro. You got to tell me, hey, well, join the club. George Kittle's been a little banged up this year. They've had some injuries on defense. So I think that this 49ers team will be healthier, obviously, but I don't think they'll have Brandon Ayuk. I do think that he unfortunately tore his ACL. So this 49ers team has some stuff to figure out. Obviously, they're still a good team, and I'm not saying they're completely falling off. But I do feel a little bit more confident, and maybe it's just I'm just coping maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the Bears can maybe hang around here, Justin. I'm not saying they're going to win the game.
Okay.
Being in San Francisco is tough.
Very much so.
And again, don't underestimate Kyle Shanahan. I think he's still a phenomenal coach. But they've looked very pedestrian this year. The kinks in the armor have shown themselves a little bit. So
yeah,
I think the Bears. Maybe I'll be bold. Maybe I'll say they win in San Francisco.
No, I'm just kidding. Here's the thing. If this was like, okay, Ayuk's out, Samuel's out, and then the whole defense is out, heck yeah, we're winning this game.
Yeah.
But no,
Okay.
I'm really afraid of our O-line has been okay in the past couple of games.
Yeah, Nick Bosa. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, Nick Bosa,
Ugh.
Fred Warner. I'm scared of those guys.
Me
Caleb.
too.
Yeah. I think that's going to be hard. Like I don't think that's going to be easy for our O-line to be able to, or offensive line to be able to contain.
Yeah.
Remember, the 49ers still have George Kittle. He's still going to be.
Yeah, Kittle's good. Yeah.
So I think for as of now, unless the whole 49ers reserve gets wiped out by an injury, I think we're not winning that game either.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think if we were at home, I have a little bit more confidence. But as injury plagued as the 49ers look right now, they still have a lot of good stars and Pro Bowlers and players.
They do. You're right. Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing that you're a little bit more optimistic on, what was it, Minnesota
Yes.
And I'm a little bit more optimistic against San Francisco. Okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Speaking of Minnesota, then the next week we play at Minnesota. We just talked about the Vikings as a team. We don't need to go over that game a whole lot. But in Minnesota, week 15, that's going to be tough. That's when, again, everybody's competing for the playoffs. The Vikings will be competing for the division / higher seeding in the playoffs. It's going to be tough. Again, it is nice that the Vikings play in a dome, so you don't have to worry about the weather in Minnesota. But, I mean, Vikings fans are loud. 100% the Vikings fans are loud. So it'll be interesting to see Caleb kind of in that environment against, like I said, Brian Flores and that defense, Justin Jefferson. And I think the interesting thing about the Bears' schedule is we kind of play all 6 of our divisional games in like a 7 or 8 week window.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of familiarity between these teams. So maybe if we lose the first time, what are the adjustments that we're going to make in the second matchup?
Right.
Or what worked in the first time that we can, do again in the second game. So I think the first 3 division games for all 3 of these teams will be very interesting to see kind of what the Bears do. And then in the second round, you kind of have to just empty out the bag and kind of show everything.
Yeah.
Week 16, they play Detroit. As I've said, Detroit is probably the best team in the NFC right now. I will say, though, week 16, it's in Chicago.
I know.
And when you have that offense like the Lions do, where it's a lot of motion and it's a lot of play action, it's a lot of downfield passing, and it's a lot of all this cool schematic stuff from Ben Johnson, that cold weather in Chicago might limit some of that.
Yes.
And I think that part of the reason that the Lions are so good is because they do play in a dome, right? Jared Goff is a California guy, went to Cal, played for the Los Angeles Rams. Now he plays in a dome in Detroit. Jared Goff is not a guy that's comfortable, I think, with the cold weather and the frigid temperatures.
Yeah.
It'll be cold. This is the, December 19th, I think, is that game. It's a week or so before Christmas. It will be cold. It will be freezing in Chicago. It'll probably be snowing, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, my opinion is the uglier the game weather is, the snow, the rain, the wind, whatever, the better it is for the Bears.
Yeah.
I think the worse the weather is, the better it is for the Bears. So I actually, just on the strength of our weather, I might give the Bears a win in Detroit, which would be a huge win late in the year. I do think that they can beat Detroit in Chicago.
Yeah, no, I agree with you too. I think the weather's gonna be a huge factor, and I also think being at home is gonna be a huge factor. I mean, overall, I think we have looked pretty. Are we still undefeated at home?
Yeah, we're undefeated at home.
Yeah, we're still undefeated at home.
So we're technically also the home team in London.
Yes.
So we're 4-0 at home.
Yep.
0-2 on the road. Yep.
Yeah. So definitely, from pretty much now until the end of the schedule, I feel a lot more confident with the home games that we have for sure. But I definitely think we can steal one at home. I think it will not be an easy one to steal. I mean, Detroit's just loaded with talent. So, but I think if we can at least keep up with them offensively and be able to, not let too many rushing yards get on the board, I think we could be able to win.
Yeah. Another thing is Jared Goff is not a guy who's going to evade a lot of pressure.
No.
If the Lions' offensive line is very good, don't get me wrong, but if you can get to Jared Goff, I mean, that's your key to success, and that's what the Bears have done in the last couple of years, because he's not a guy that's going to move around. He's not going to extend plays really with his legs.
Yep.
So he's a guy that you can get after. Then another home game. We're hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Again, a West Coast team coming into Chicago. This is the day after Christmas. This is December 26th. I will be at this game, so I will have not a front row, but I will have a certain row seat to this game. Obviously, there's the storyline of a West Coast team coming into play in a cold weather game. Although Seattle's not, California. They're not sunshine and rainbows all year, but definitely not as cold as the Midwest. Geno has got the Seahawks to 4-2. They just beat the Falcons 34-14. Seattle has looked, I don't want to say inconsistent, but it seems like we get a different version of the Seahawks every week.
Yes.
First 3 weeks, defense looked phenomenal. Geno was dealing. Offensively they were doing great. Then the next 3 weeks, you thought, against Detroit, well, the offense looks good. And then against and then against the Giants, you're like, they don't look good. And then against San Francisco, kind of everything fell apart. But then coming, after the mini bye they had after that Thursday game, they looked really good against Atlanta. Defense played well. They're getting some guys back like Byron Murphy. Uchenna Nwosu is coming back hopefully soon. Boye and Derek Hall are healthy. This Seahawks team, I think, has a lot of talent. It'll be interesting to see kind of how they're doing late in this year. I do expect both the Bears and the Seahawks to be fighting for a wild card spot.
Yeah.
So this will be a huge game for playoff implications for both teams.
Yeah.
And I think that it'll be very interesting to see Seattle's weapons going against the Bears' defense. Kenneth Walker, Jackson Smith-Njigba, but DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They're not players to sneeze at. This is going to be a legit matchup. So I'm excited for this game. I think, in my opinion, this is going to be one of the games of the year for the Bears.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'll definitely be a fun and exciting game on both sides. I definitely think with this being another home game that we can possibly knock off the Seahawks, but it's going to take a lot of work from our defense to be able to contain the explosiveness of Geno Smith. And I know DK Metcalf hasn't had like the most craziest season so far, right?
I think he's third in receiving yards this year.
Oh, okay.
He's been quietly.
There we go. Yeah,
quietly
using that. So
yeah.
I mean, he's always a guy to look out for to make sure that we contain defensively. But I mean, you're right. This Seahawks team was looking really strong in the first 3 weeks, and now they're 4-3. So I definitely think they are a beatable team.
Yeah.
It's more about, can we contain those star players on the side of offense for the Seattle Seahawks?
The Bears pass rush, I think, is going to have some good matchups because the Seahawks offensive line has not been very good this year.
No, not at all.
And right now they're on their third string right tackle. Abe Lucas might come back, week 17, but the timetable just keeps getting pushed back and back and back,
yep.
and so it'll be interesting to see who the Seahawks are lining up at right tackle come week 17. And Montez Sweat should be licking his chops
for sure,
trying to get to Geno Smith. But last game of the year, last regular season game of the year. Let me be an optimist. Last regular season game of the year, week 18 at Green Bay. I've mentioned it a few times. I think these games down the stretch will determine if the Bears make the playoffs or not.
Yes.
The season may very well come down to playing in Green Bay, win and you're in, lose and you go home.
Yeah.
And I am of the opinion, I said this in a few episodes, I think if the Bears don't make the playoffs this year, I don't know if Matt Eberflus is the coach next year.
Yes,
so
100%.
He could be coaching for his job. Waldron could be coaching for his job. Caleb's going to be here for years, so he's not playing for anything necessarily this year. But I think that this game is so important, and I think that I will truly be swayed to believe that these Bears are different if they go into Green Bay week 18 and they get a W.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's against Jordan Love. I don't care if Malik Willis is the quarterback. I don't care if they bring Brett Favre out of retirement and he's the quarterback. I don't care who plays in this game. I don't care what the situation is, who's injured, who's not, whatever. The Bears need to go into Green Bay and win.
Yeah.
They need to. They have not been able to beat Green Bay, let alone in Green Bay, for the majority of my lifetime. It has been sad. It's been depressing. Aaron Rodgers literally said that he owns us, and he's not wrong. Then Jordan Love last year takes over, beats us twice. It's embarrassing. We need to get our lick back. We need to finally get one on the board. Caleb needs to be the guy that starts beating Green Bay.
Yeah.
He needs to go in week 18 and beat Green Bay. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
We just jinxed, by the way.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I agree, right? It is a little scary because it's a away game, the last game of the regular season, and it could pretty much, make or break our season depending on where we're standing at.
Yep.
You got to go out there, you got to win. I think we definitely will win, but I think you have to go out there and you have to show, hey, I am the number one pick. I am here for a reason. And honestly, he wins this game. This brings another conversation of, is he? I mean, he's already kind of a budding star right now, but is he a superstar?
These are the games that superstars win.
Yes, these are the games that superstars win 100%. So I just think that looking at, last game of the regular season, you got to go out there and kill it.
And last year you saw, not that they necessarily were going to make the playoffs, but like last year, end of the year, they ended in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And you just thought, man, like the Bears aren't even close.
No.
They're not even close to Green Bay right now. Like the Packers didn't even play a particularly good game, and they still handled the Bears easily. So let this be the turn of the page the Bears need. This is a new era. This is a new team. It's not the same old Bears that lose to Green Bay every year. Let's see it. All right. So we've talked about the schedule going forward. Let's now talk about the immediate game that we have on Sunday going up against the Washington Commanders. This will be a huge game for the Bears, as the Commanders have been one of the hottest teams in the NFL so far this year. Despite losing Jane Daniels for the majority of the game yesterday against the Panthers, they still whooped up on the Panthers pretty good, kind of like we did a couple weeks ago. 27-0 with Marcus Mariota. By the way, Marcus Mariota throwing touchdown passes to Zach Ertz. What are we, 2014? Anyways,
yes, we are.
I wanted to bring that back. But no, Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal this year. Obviously, we know how good Caleb Williams has been. I think that's the key matchup in this game. That's what everybody's going to be talking about, right? It's the premier matchup. I know CBS flexed our game to the 3:30 slot, which it feels so good to get flexed up and not flexed back. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it feels so good to have a national audience. I believe that this is going to be Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the call, which if Tony Romo and Jim Nantz are on the call, you know you're doing something right.
Yeah.
This will be a huge game for the Bears.
Very much so.
This will be, I think, the biggest game of the year so far. Outside of just, I think, Jaden versus Caleb, what are you going to look for in this game, Justin?
Honestly, I'm going to look for to see what our defensive stars do, right? What does Montez Sweat do?
Yeah.
What does Jalen
Former
Johnson
Commander,
do?
by the way.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the guys I'm looking at. And honestly, like, yes, our highlighted matchup is supposed to be Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, but what if he doesn't play next week?
Yeah, I was about to say, I do believe that he'll play.
It says he has bruised ribs, or you know, he'll undergo further testing today. You know. Yeah. So we'll see.
I am of the opinion, and I could be wrong because I'm not perfect. I'm of the opinion that if the Commanders were playing the Lions, and it was 14-14 at halftime, I think Jane Daniels would have played.
Yeah.
I do believe that because they were playing the Panthers, because they had such a sizable lead, they, out of caution, kept Jaden out of the game, which was the right call. They didn't need him for the second half.
No.
Or even they didn't need him past the first quarter, right? But I do think that if push had come to shove, he would have played. I do think with the whole entire week of rest, you know, they're going to give him an ice pack. Maybe they give him the cortisol shot, whatever you need. I really don't see Jane Daniels not playing in this game.
Yeah.
But just because he plays doesn't mean he's 100%.
Exactly.
So you start roughing him up a little bit. You start getting after him. Maybe he's not as athletic as he's been the first 6-7 weeks throughout the year.
Right, yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're talking about, okay, well, he's less effective of a weapon as he's been. So I think his injury will play a part in this game as well. But I think that leads to what I was going to say, just the pass rush. I think we need to get after him.
Yeah.
Because he right now, in the early points of the year, he's completing like 80% of his passes.
Yeah.
I mean, he has
and
had
some of those passes are deep passes.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, he's not throwing just screen passes.
No.
He's throwing some absolute rockets down the field. Terry McLaurin has been getting involved. You know, we've seen a lot of the Commanders' weapons. They've been running the ball pretty well, too, with Brian Robinson. So defensive line, I think, is the key for the Bears. And then one weakness that the Commanders have had, which is why they lost to the Ravens a couple of weeks ago, their passing defense isn't very good.
No.
Bobby Wagner, man, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Hang him up. Go get a job in a broadcast booth, dude. What are we doing, man? No, but their secondary isn't very good. I don't think that their defensive line is very good. Their whole defense in general, I don't think is very talented. So if you're the Bears, that's where you need to take advantage. You need to score some points, and you need to let your defense hold Jaden and the Commanders' offense as much as possible.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And that kind of leads us, speaking of the quarterback matchup, do you think this game defines a Rookie of the Year?
I think it could.
Yeah.
I really do think it could. Now, if this game was week 16 the Commanders and Bears were fighting for playoffs, I think it really would.
Definitely.
But I do think at the end of the year, if we look back and these guys had, you know, similar years, Jaden will probably be a better rusher, Caleb a better passer, I would imagine. Yeah. Right? I think the Bears clearly have a tougher schedule. You know, like I said, Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, Seattle, San Francisco. I think that the voters will look back and they'll say, all right, well, when these two played, who won? Yeah. And if Caleb goes out there and he balls out and they kick Jaden Daniels and the Commanders in the behind, I think that'll do a lot for his Rookie of the Year nomination.
Yeah, I agree.
I do think so. And I know, you know, we're in late October, November. I know it's election season. But my vote would be for Caleb Williams, truthfully. Not only for Rookie of the Year, but also for President. Okay, I'm done. No, I'm just kidding. But I do think that this,
Caleb? No.
Yeah, I do think that this game can help define Rookie of the Year. Because these guys have been both so good. Right. And I don't think either one of them maybe will be historically good. But you go back and you look for tiebreakers, and this is a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I do think that, playoffs will also be included in there and everything like that. But, yeah, I think this game could help determine that for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, this is a box office TV, right? You have two of the top picks in the last year's draft, and, they have both, they both can play, and they both have, Heisman winners and –
yeah, back-to-back Heismans too. Yeah,
that's crazy, right? You don't really see that nowadays. Yeah. So we all know the talent's there, and to see two elite players go at it on, both teams are playing well. At this point of the season. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one, and I think we can definitely win it for sure. I mean, they're similar to us. They're undefeated at home as well. They're 3-0 at home. Yeah. So I mean, that's gonna be a tough one. But I mean, if I'm just like any Bears player, I'm not thinking the Commanders Stadium is packed out.
No, FedEx Field will probably not be a ruckus environment as some of these other games.
So I think that should help us be able to contain the emotions of the game and kind of maintain control for sure.
Yeah. All right. We ended with a little game prediction.
Sure.
Give me the Bears. Oh, please don't disappoint me. Give me the Bears. Give me 24-20. Give me the Bears. Okay. Don't disappoint me. I was not. I had faith in the beginning of the year. You disappointed me. I came back. On a 3-game win streak. Don't disappoint me. I think I'm back on the boat.
Oh man, I think that's a safe prediction, but I'm gonna go a little bit further. I'm gonna go Bears 31, Commanders 20.
Ooh, double-digit road win against the Commanders.
Yeah, we're talking double chocolate chocolate.
Oh my God! I can't even get him off the air. Get him off the air.
All right, guys. No. But no. I think it should be. I think what separates us from the Commanders is our wide receiver core. We have Pro Bowl receivers. We have receivers that can be able to run and catch and do it. And we have a tight end that can block. We just have more on offense than what the Commanders have. I mean, the Commanders don't have trash players. They have good players. Yeah. Kind of like what you said for the Packers earlier, right? Yeah. So I think definitely they will try to contain and keep up with us, but we're the better team.
Yeah. All right. There you have it for our bye-week episode of Bears Talk today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for blowing up the painting nails video, by the way. That one went viral. I'm sure this one will go viral with me dancing. Cut it out. Alex, you're still fired. This changes nothing. But thank you guys for watching. Appreciate all the support. Love you guys. We'll see you guys in next week's episode, hopefully with a huge win against the Commanders.
Yes. All right.